You can tell if a watermelon is sweet before you ever cut it open, from the outside, in about 10 seconds. No knife, no sticker, no trusting a single word the store tells you. Most people never learned this, not because it's hard, because nobody told them. And somewhere along the way, the knowledge got quietly replaced by pretty packaging and a price tag. But this is old knowledge, plain folk knowledge. The kind that lived in fields and gardens long before melons got trucked 2,000 miles and sprayed shiny to fool your eye. My grandfather taught me this before I was tall enough to see over the wagon. And today I'm giving you the whole thing, start to finish. Every mark, every sign in order. By the end of this, you walk up to any pile of watermelons anywhere and you read them like words on a page. Let's get into it. The ground spot. First thing. Flip the melon over and look at the bottom. When a watermelon grows, it lays on the ground. The side touching the dirt never sees the sun, so it can't green up like the rest of the rind. It develops a patch of color instead, and that color tells you everything. If that spot is white, pale, chalky, almost greenish white, put it back. That melon was pulled off the vine too early. The sugars never finished developing. It will be bland, watery, and pale inside no matter how pretty it looks on the outside. If that spot is a deep, creamy, buttery yellow, the color of fresh churned butter or an old envelope, that's your melon. That yellow means it sat on the vine through the long, hot days and finished properly. The longer it ripened, the deeper that yellow got. Researchers who tested this with actual sugar meters found what old farmers already knew. A deep, buttery ground spot lines up with a measurably sweeter melon nearly every single time. Now here's the part that should bother you. The people who pack these melons into crates know exactly what that yellow spot means. And they stack them spot down, hidden against the cardboard. Prettiest green side facing up. So you buy with your eyes instead of your knowledge. They are not selling you a ripe melon. They are selling you a good-looking one. There is a difference, and that difference is their profit and your disappointment. One move changes that. Flip it over. Look at the bottom. White, walk away. Buttery yellow, that's your pick. The pig's tail. Next, look near the stem end. Where the melon connects to the vine, there's usually a small curling tendril nearby. We always called it the pig's tail. That little curl is directly connected to what's happening inside the fruit. While the melon is still growing, still feeding off the vine, that tendril is green, alive, and flexible. But when the melon reaches full ripeness, the vine shuts off the supply. It stops feeding the fruit, and that tendril, with nothing left flowing through it, dries up. It turns brown and crisp. Green tendril means the melon wasn't finished when it was cut. Brown, dried tendril means the vine said it was done. That's the one you want. Here is the single most important thing I will tell you today, and the modern world gets it wrong constantly. A watermelon does not ripen after you pick it. It does not get sweeter on your counter. A banana does. A peach does. A watermelon does not. It is exactly as sweet as it will ever be the moment it leaves that vine. What you pick is what you get, and that's it. So that dried brown tendril is your proof that the melon was allowed to finish before it was cut loose. At the grocery store, the stems are usually trimmed short, and the tendril is gone. But at a roadside stand, a farmer's market, a neighbor's truck, always look for it. Free truth, hanging right there. The thump. Everybody thumps a watermelon. Most of them have no idea what they're listening for. They thump because they saw somebody else do it. The habit stayed, the knowledge left. Let me give it back. A watermelon is mostly water held in soft flesh. When it's ripe, the flesh is full and juicy and slightly loose. Sound moves through it deep and low. When it's underripe, the flesh is dense and tight. Sound bounces back high and flat. Here is what you're listening for. Hold the melon up off any surface if you can. Give it a firm knock with your knuckles, the way you'd knock on a door. A ripe melon answers back deep, low, and hollow, like a drum. There's a resonance to it, a roundness, a boom you almost feel in your hand as much as hear with your ears. Underripe sounds high and tight. A flat pinging tunk, like knocking on a packed bookshelf. No room, no music, no depth. Overripe sounds dead. A dull, soft thud with no ring at all. That melon has gone past its peak. The flesh is breaking down inside. You don't want that one either. You're looking for the middle sound, the deep drum, not the high ping, not the dead thud. Knock on 3 or 4 melons in the bin back to back and your hand will start to teach your ear. The ripe one sounds and feels different. You'll know it when you find it. It just takes a few tries. And here's what gets under my skin about the modern grocery store. They pack melons into tall cardboard bins so tight you can barely lift one. They shrink wrap them. They cut them into halves and quarters and little plastic clamshells so you have no way to test them at all. You're paying double or triple per pound for a melon somebody else already cut open, and now you're trusting their eyes instead of using your own. That pre-cut melon in the plastic tray, you're buying on pure faith. The whole melon you can read in 20 seconds. The cut one, you're just hoping. The weight pick the melon up. Actually lift it. A good watermelon is heavy for its size, noticeably heavier than it looks like it should be. That weight is water. Dense, sweet, ripe water packed tightly into the flesh. It will surprise your arms a little. It pulls down. Here's the easiest way to use this. Find 2 melons that look about the same size. Pick one up in each hand. The heavier one is almost always the riper, juicier one. The lighter one has air pockets, or it dried out, or it never filled in properly. Heft beats looks every single time. A melon that feels light for how big it is, set it down. You want the one that feels like it's barely holding itself together, like it's full to the point of bursting. The shape. Look at the overall shape of the melon. A good one should be even and symmetrical. Round melons should be evenly round. Long oval melons should be smoothly oval all the way down. What you don't want is flat spots, lumps, dents, or a melon that's fat on one end and pinched on the other. Those irregular shapes came from uneven watering or inconsistent pollination while the fruit was developing. When a melon doesn't get steady water, it grows in bursts and gaps, and you end up with hollow spots and sometimes dry, pale streaks inside. An even shape tells you the melon had steady conditions all the way through. Smooth and symmetrical outside almost always means solid and consistent inside. The webbing. Now here is the mark I look for first. Every single time. The one the old-timers swore by above everything else. And the one that almost everybody in a modern grocery store walks right past. Look at the skin of the melon. On some of them you'll see rough, brown, corky lines running across the rind. Like a net. Like fine stitching. Like cracked, dried mud spread across the surface. Some people call it webbing. Some call it sugar veins. Old farmers called them bee stings, and that name is the closest thing to accurate. Here's what that webbing actually is. A watermelon flower has to be pollinated to grow into fruit, and not just once. Each melon needs its flower visited by bees many times over. The more visits, the more seeds get set inside the fruit. And the more seeds that get set, the more sugar the melon pulls in from the vine to feed them. A watermelon is sweet because it's working to nourish its seeds. Where the bees worked hardest, where the flower was visited most, the skin sometimes scars during development. It forms those brown, corky lines. That webbing is literally a record of bee activity, a scar map of how many times the bees came calling. Heavy webbing means heavy pollination. Heavy pollination means more seeds, more sugar, and sweeter flesh. The bees knew which flowers were worth the most work, and they left a mark on every one. Now here is where the whole broken system reveals itself. That webbed, scarred, rough-looking melon is harder to sell. It looks imperfect, so stores push the clean, smooth, shiny ones to the front of the display, the beautiful ones, and the webbed ones sit in the back, or they don't even make it to the shelf. People reach right past the sweetest melon in the bin because they think the brown marks are a flaw. They've got it completely backwards. The rough one is better. The plain folk never cared how a melon looked. We cared how it tasted. That is a fundamentally different way of seeing, and it is the one that actually fills your table. The first thing I look for, every single time, is that brown webbing. The more of it, the better. The skin finish, one more thing to look for. And this one is especially useful if you're growing your own. A young, unripe watermelon has a shiny skin. Glossy. Slick looking, almost like it's been waxed. As it ripens and the cells inside fill up and mature, that surface changes. The shine fades. The skin goes dull and matte and flat looking. The green deepens. Shiny means still growing. Dull means done. The science behind it is straightforward. The waxy coating on the skin is part of how the fruit protects itself while it's still developing. Once the fruit matures, the surface changes character. The gloss disappears. That's the plant's own signal that the fruit is ready. Dull beats shiny. Every time. The stripes and the honey spot. Look at the dark and light stripes running down the melon. On a fully ripe melon, the contrast between those stripes sharpens. The dark green goes darker, deep forest green, and the pale stripe stays light and distinct. On an underripe melon, the whole rind looks more uniform. The stripes blend together and lose their edge. Bold, high-contrast stripes, ripe. Washed out, blurry stripes, not yet. And go back to that ground spot one more time. Look closely at the center of it. On the very ripest melons, that buttery yellow spot will sometimes deepen toward orange at the center, or show fine little raised bumps in it. That is concentrated sugar so dense, it's showing through the skin at the softest point of the rind. Old farmers called it the honey spot. They pulled those melons first and saved them for the children. That orange center in the ground spot is the highest mark a melon can earn. For the home grower, if you're growing your own melons, you face a different challenge. You can't pull one to test it without losing it. Once you cut it off the vine, that's it. Cut too early, and you've wasted an entire season of work. Wait too long and it goes mealy and sour on the vine. The window is only a few days wide. Here's how to read it right on the living plant. Watch the pig's tail, that curling tendril nearest the melon's attachment point. While it's green, leave the melon alone. The day it dries up and goes brown and crisp, that's your signal. The vine just told you it's finished feeding this fruit. Check the ground spot on the underside where it rests on the soil. Nudge it gently and peek under. When that spot has gone from white to a deep buttery cream, it's been down there long enough. Look at the skin overall. Shiny means still growing. Dull and matte means mature and ready. All three lining up at the same time, that's your day. Cut it clean with a knife, leave a couple inches of stem, don't pull or twist, and bring it in. One more thing the seed catalogs won't tell you. Ease off the water in the final week before harvest. A melon flooded with water, right at the end, will dilute its own sugar. The flesh goes bland and watery. Pull back on the watering as the melons finish. Let them concentrate. The sugars tighten up and the flesh gets dense and sweet. Let it thirst just a little at the end. It will show you the difference on the plate. The full method. All together. Here is the complete checklist. 6 things. 20 seconds. 1. Brown sugar webbing across the skin. The more, the better. This is the first thing your eye should go to. 2. Flip it over. Buttery yellow ground spot. Deep cream to golden, not white, not pale green. 3. Dried brown pig's tail if it's available. Green means it wasn't ready when it was cut. 4. Heavy for its size. Pick up 2 of the same size and take the heavier one. 5. Deep drum sound when you knock it. Not the high ping, not the dead thud. The low, hollow boom. 6. Even, symmetrical shape. No lumps, no flat spots, no pinched ends. Bonus marks. Dull matte skin, not shiny. Bold high contrast stripes. Orange-scented honey spot on the bottom. When the main 6 agree, you are holding a winner. When all the bonus marks line up too, you've got something exceptional. Why this matters. 100 years ago, nearly everybody had picked a melon off a vine or watched their mother do it. Knowledge was just part of life. You absorbed it without being taught, the same way you learned to read weather or start a fire. Then the melons started coming from far away. Then they came pre-cut. Then they came wrapped in plastic with stickers promising sweetness. And every step of that, You handed a little more of your own judgment over to someone whose interest is in selling melons, not in you eating a good one. Knowing was never complicated. It was never expensive. It was a yellow spot and a brown curl and a knock on the rind. And a whole industry got quietly built on people forgetting those three things and reaching for the shiniest one in the bin instead. You don't have to do that anymore. What to do this weekend? Next time you have a watermelon on your counter, before you cut it, set it down and read the whole thing. The webbing, the ground spot, the stripe contrast, the honey spot, the dull skin, the weight in your hands. Give it the knock. When it hits on all of them, cut it. And I'll wager you've never tasted a store-bought melon come that close to one pulled straight off the vine in August. Then save the seeds, rinse them, dry them on a paper towel on the windowsill. Next May, put them in the ground. The sweetest melon you ever found in a bin might give you a whole patch of your own. That's how this always traveled, not bought, grown, handed forward. And start a simple notebook, nothing fancy. Every time you cut a melon, write down what the outside looked like and what the inside tasted like. After one season, you'll have taught your own eyes with your own results. Because melons grow a little differently in Georgia than they do in Michigan, and your hands will learn your ground faster than any rule I can hand you.